You know I've been looking forward to this all week, right? You know that I always miss you. It's my favorite time of the week, actually. Just get to share it with you, me, and good book. No. Tell me you had a good week, okay? You know I care about you a lot, right? I'll always be here for you, okay? Now, get yourself comfortable, precious. You don't want to keep Morpheus waiting up there for you. Remember, we're reading King Solomon's Mines by H. Rider Haggard. Well, where were we? Here we are. I was rather puzzled by this man and his way of speech. It was evident to me from his manner that in the main he was telling the truth. But somehow he seemed different from the ordinary run of the Zulus, and I rather mistrusted his offer to come without pay. Being in a difficulty, I translated his words to Sir Henry and Good, and asked them their opinion. Sir Henry told me to ask him to stand up. Mbopa did so, and at the same time slipping off the long military greatcoat which he wore, and revealing himself naked except for the mucha round his center, and a necklace of lion's claws. Certainly, he was a magnificent-looking man. I never had a finer native. Standing about 6'3" high, he was so broad in proportion and very shapely, in that light, too. His skin looked scarcely more than dark, except here and there where deep black scars marked old asagi wounds. Sir Henry walked up to him and looked into his proud, handsome face. "They make a good pair, don't they?" said Good. "One as big as the other." "I like your looks, Mr. Umbopa, and I will take you as my servant," said Sir Henry in English. Umbopa evidently understood him, for he answered in Zulu, "It is well," and then added, with a glance at the white man's great stature and breadth, "We are men, thou and I." Chapter 4. An Elephant Hunt. Now, I do not propose to narrate at full length all the incidents of our long travels up to Satanda's Kraal, near the junction of Lukanga and the Kolak rivers. It was a journey of more than 1,000 miles from Durban, the last 300 or so, which we had to make on foot, owing to the frequent presence of the dreadful Itse fly, whose bite is fatal to all animals except donkeys and men. We left Durban at the end of January, and it was the second week of May that we camped near Satanda's Kraal. Our adventures on the way were many and various, but, as they are of the sort which befall every African hunter, with one exception to be presently detailed, I shall not set them down here, lest I should render this history much too wearisome. At Inyati, the outlying trading station of the Matable country, of which Labangola, a great and cruel scoundrel, is king, with many regents, we parted from our comfortable wagon. Only 12 oxen remained to us out of the beautiful span of 20 which I had bought from Durban. One we had lost from the bite of a cobra, 3 had perished from poverty and the want of water, 1 strayed, and the other 3 died from eating the poisonous herb called tulip. 5 more sickened from this cause, but we managed to cure them with doses of an infusion made by boiling down the tulip leaves. If administered in time, this is a very effective antidote. The wagon and the oxen we left in the immediate charge of Goza and Tom, our driver and leader, both trustworthy boys, requesting a worthy Scotch missionary who lived in the distant palace to keep an eye on them. Then, accompanied by Umbopa, Kiva, and the Ventvogel, and a half a dozen bearers whom we had hired on the spot, we started off on foot upon our wild quest. And I think we all remember that we were all a little silent on the occasion of this departure. And I think that each of us was wondering if we should ever see our wagon again. For my part, I never expected to do so. For a while we trampled on in silence until Umbopa, who was marching in front, broke into a Zulu chant about how some brave men, tired of the life of tameless things, started off into the vast wilderness to find new things or die, and how, lo and behold, when they had traveled far into the wilderness, they found that it was not a wilderness at all, but a beautiful place, full of young wives and fat cattle, of game to hunt and enemies to kill. Then we all laughed and took it for a good omen. Umbopa was a cheerful savage, in a dignified sort of way. When he was not suffering from one of his fits of brooding, and he had a wonderful knack of keeping up our spirits, we all grew quite fond of him. Then, about a fortnight's march from Inyati, we came across a peculiarly beautiful bit of well-watered woodland country. The kloofs in the hills were covered in dense brush, idoro bush, as the natives call it, and in some places with the huachti ach bench, or wait a little thorn, and there were great quantities of the lovely macabel tree, laden with refreshing yellow fruit, having enormous stones. This tree is the elephant's favorite food, and they were not watering signs that the great brutes had been about. For not only was their spoor frequent, but in many places the trees were broken down or even uprooted. The elephant is a destructive feeder. One evening, after a long day's march, we came to a spot of which great loveliness. At the foot of a bush-clad hill lay a dry riverbed, in which, however, there were to be found pools of crystal water, all trodden round with hoof-prints of game. Facing this hill was a park-like plain, where great clumps grew of flat-topped mimosa, varied with occasional glossy-leaved macabels, and all around stretched the sea of pathless, silent bush. As we emerged into this riverbed, suddenly we started a troop of tall giraffes, who galloped, or rather sailed off, in their strange gait, their tails screwed up over their backs and their hoofs rattling like castanets. They were about 300 yards away from us, and therefore practically out of shot, but Good, who was walking ahead, and who had an express loaded with a solid ball in his hand, could not resist the temptation. Lifting his gun, he let drive at the last a young cow. By some extraordinary chance, the ball struck it full on the back of the neck, shattering the spinal column, and the giraffe went rolling head over heels, just like a rabbit. I never saw a more curious thing. "Curse it," said Good, for I am sorry to say that he had a habit of using strong language when excited, or contracted, no doubt, in the course of his nautical career. "Curse it, I've killed him." "Oh, Bhagwan," ejaculated one of the Kafirs. Wow. They called Good Bhagwan, or Glass Eye, because of his glass eye. "Oh, Bhagwan," re-echoed Sir Henry and I. From that day, Good's reputation as a marvelous shot was established at any rate among the Kafirs. Really, he was a bad one, but Whenever he missed, we overlooked it for the sake of that giraffe. Having set some of the boys to cut some of the best of the giraffe's meat, we went to work to build a scherm near one of the pools, about 100 yards to its right. This is done by cutting a quantity of those thorn bushes and piling them in the shape of a circular hedge, and then the space enclosed is smothered, and dry tambuki grass, if obtainable, is made into a bed at the center, and a fire, or fires, is lighted. By the time the scherm was finished, the moon peeped up, and our dinner of giraffe steaks and roasted marrow bones was ready. How we enjoyed those marrow bones, though it was rather a job to crack them. I know of no greater luxury than giraffe marrow, unless it is elephant's heart, and we had that on the morrow. We ate our simple meal by the light of the moon, pausing at times to thank God for his wonderful shot, and then we began to smoke and yarn, and a curious picture we must have been there squatting around the fire. I with my short grizzled hair sticking up straight, and Sir Henry with his yellow locks, which were getting rather long, were rather a contrast, as I am especially thin and short and broad, weighing only about 9 stone and a half. Sir Henry is tall and broad and fair, and weighs about 15. But perhaps the most curious of the looking of us three, taking in all the circumstances of the case into consideration, was Captain John Good. There he sat upon a leather bag, looking as though he had just come from a comfortable day's shooting in a civilized country. Absolutely clean, tidy, and well dressed. He wore a shooting suit of brown tweed, with a hat to match, and his neat gaiters as usual. He was perfectly shaved, his glass eye and false teeth appeared to be in perfect order. And although this was the neatest man I have ever had to do with in the wilderness, he even sported a collar of which he had a supply made of white gutta percha. You see, they weigh so little, he said to me innocently, when I expressed my astonishment at the fact, and I always like to turn out like a gentleman. If he could have foreseen the future and the rampant prepared for him. Well, there we three sat, yarning away in the beautiful moonlight, and watching the Kaffirs a few yards away sucking their intoxicating dacha from a pipe, of which the mouthpiece was made of the horn of an eland, till one by one they rolled themselves up in their blankets, and went to sleep by the fire. That is, all except Mbopa, who was a little apart, his chin resting on his hand, and thinking deeply. I noticed that he never mixed much with the other Kaffirs. Look at you. You look so pretty, lying there asleep, precious. I hope that you find Morpheus out there in the stars tonight. I know he's waiting for you. Make sure you tell him hello when you see him. I know he looks forward to your visits. Now then, rest well, precious, and stay safe on the river Lethe.